Okay, today I want to go through something that is a problem for a lot of people. When you sew on a home sewing machine and you're sewing a slinky knit, you're told to use either a ballpoint or, more importantly, a stretch needle on something that's very slinky and stretchy and thin. And things like lycra, swimsuit material, and those kind of things. Well, the only difference between a stretch needle and a ballpoint needle is a stretch needle is actually a ballpoint. It's just got a longer scarf and a longer eye in the needle. And that allows it to better form a stitch when the needle goes down through the throat plate. And you can see how this kind of pushes down. Well, that allows it a better chance of catching the stitch, and that prevents skip stitches. So the problem we have is with sergers and cover stitch machines, for the home machines anyway, is it's hard to find just a ballpoint needle, much less a stretch needle, and they don't make stretch needles for the sergers. So what I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you something to try. I use the standard Schmetz Stretch Needles, and this is the Babylock Evolution. I've installed 2 in this machine, and we're going to do a test stitch 4-thread overlock on this material, this slinky knit. And these are size 14. You can get them in 12 and 14. And so I'd get both of them. But what you want to do before you put it in your machine is take your needle out and compare the length of the needles and make sure that they're the same length. So you definitely don't want it to be longer. And if that works out okay, go ahead and put them in your machine. And what you're going to want to do is just hand crank the wheel very slowly. And what you're doing is you're listening to see if you hear any kind of a grind, you feel any kind of a bump. And then after you get past that and you don't feel any grinding or bumping, make sure it's sewing the stitches correctly, so it's wrapping around the finger and you're getting a successful serge. So do a few of those and then go ahead and do a little test and hit the foot pedal, make sure it forms the stitches and everything looks good. And if everything looks good, you should be ready to go. So thread it up and do some test stitching. So alright, I'm going to do a test stitch on this. I went ahead and basted the edges together to keep it all together because this stuff is curly and it rolls and it can be hard to stitch. So what I'll do when I sew this stuff is I'll cut my seam length. If I'm going to do a 1/2 inch seam, I'll cut my seam length 3/4 of an inch. And then I come down through and do a basting stitch to hold it flat. And then I cut some of it off. And that leaves me with something very flat. And it's held together. It makes it so much easier to do your serging on it because you're not sitting here fighting, trying to keep it lined up as it goes through the machine. So that's a little tip for you to try. Okay, here we go. Okay, there's our stitch. You can see it stitched successfully. There are no skip stitches up and down it. Looks good. There's the back side. Everything looks really nice. So no skip stitches. I have had on this exact material when I first got it, I tried the standard needles that came with the Evolution, and I had a couple of skip stitches over a long stitch. Think of the length of a t-shirt side seam. And that's what got me testing this out initially. It's been a few years ago since I did this. But anyway, I see so many questions on forums and stuff of people asking about this. So I thought I'd do a quick video and show you what's going on with it. But anyway, once again, the needle is the Schmetz Stretch Needles. And size 14 and 12 will work. And I've even used the Schmetz top stitching needles in these successfully. Now these needles will work. I've got a Juki, two Juki sergers, home sergers, and I've got 3 Singers. I've got the Babylock Diana and this one, and these needles work in all of those machines without any problem at all. But again, on yours, test the length of the needle, insert it, manually crank the handle wheel before you even thread it. Make sure you don't hear it bumping anything, and then thread it, manually turn it, make sure it forms a proper stitch when you're manually turning the handle wheel, and then you can do some test stitches and make sure everything works out okay. But as long as they're the same length, I think you'll be okay. So give that a try, and let me know if you have any questions, and I'll see if I can answer them for you. And if they're too detailed, I'll even do a video response. So that's it for today. Take care, guys.